And I also learned that it is true that you don't know what something can turn into. You don't know what your true purpose could become until you just start. This is the Energy Within podcast, all about accessing, nurturing, and building your energy and confidence so that you can get unstuck and design your life the way you want. My name is Carrie Jokala. I am your host. I am a Reiki master, a fitness instructor, a wife, a mom to 2 little boys, and this is episode 119. And I figured today we would talk about moving forward into some action. So in the last month, we had a couple of episodes with card pulls, kind of showing you what to look forward to for the next year. And they were wonderful messages. They were very positive and encouraging and exciting. But none of it's going to happen if we don't actually take action. So I hear from my business coach, Ashley, she uses this analogy once in a while about you can't manifest, a 50K launch by sitting in the bathtub and waiting for it to happen. I would love for that to happen. And maybe one day things can get to that point where it's possible, but there's work that comes before that to get to that point where you can just make a post and then magically have people sign up and the money roll in. So specifically, because we're at the beginning of the year, of course, it's time for New Year's resolutions. And I usually set them, but I've had some years recently where I haven't. And it's kind of been more out of laziness and also a little bit of perfectionism. As in, I knew there were things that I wanted to sort out and organize as far as my thoughts went and what my focus should be and getting clarity on who I am and what I do and who I help and how I help them. And I wanted to wait to figure all that out before bothering to make a to-do list and set goals, because while I know on one hand it's technically just avoidance for me to do it that way, there is a little bit of a method to that madness, because the amount of brain dump that I would have to sort through without having clarity would just be overwhelming and cause me to stop anyway. So clarity, I have found, really is as important as they say it is. So until you have clarity, it kind of almost doesn't matter what's on your goal list. And it doesn't matter if you're someone who wants to do your own thing, make your own business, have a side hustle, just goals in life, having clarity around who you are, who you want to be, what you want to do, and why you want to do it. Until you have that clarity, you're still not necessarily going to feel fulfilled or be certain that you're on the right path. You're still going to be questioning a lot. So your first task is to find that clarity. And I don't have any kind of a clear-cut strategy for you on that, on how to find clarity. All I know is that for me, it just took a lot of baby steps and continuing to move forward. Consistency is also huge. Because you've heard me say before, if you've been listening to the podcast, that this, both the podcast and doing Reiki, this is the longest that I've been consistent with anything ever outside of fitness-related things and teaching classes. But that's a whole separate thing. Honestly, anything else, any other side hustle, any network marketing that I tried, any type of business, whatever that I would try to do, this is the longest anything has lasted, and I don't see it ending. So that's a good sign. And I also learned that it is true that you don't know what something can turn into. You don't know what your true purpose could become until you just start. So maybe I shouldn't overwhelm you with this idea of finding clarity right away before you do anything else. But at least I think getting clarity on who you are and the direction you want to head and or where you want to end up. Whichever one I think gives you the greatest sense of purpose, the greatest sense of direction, the greatest motivation that ideally won't necessarily die. We're all going to have, no matter how passionate we are about something, we're all going to have moments, days, weeks when we're just not feeling it. The energy is a little off. Things aren't going right. But if we can see past that and know that it's going to end and we can get through it, then you know you're onto something. Then you know you're on the right path. And learning through failure is another big key. Not worrying so much about numbers, who shows up, how many people are watching or listening. Commit to continuing to keep going no matter what the numbers are. I don't know if people still preach this or not, but there was always this push years ago to know your numbers, know your metrics, figure out how to go into your Facebook and your Twitter and your Instagram and whatever and look at your insights and all the stats. And while I know that is valuable for knowing what's landing with people and what isn't, when you're so early into everything, my personal experience so far is that it can be a little disheartening because something that you hope is going to take off doesn't take off or it gets crickets. You can log into your email provider and see right in your face as soon as you log in how many people have unsubscribed. And that feels like a personal attack sometimes. And just let me clarify, if by chance you're listening, but you had decided to unsubscribe from the email list, but you're still around because you like everything else, no judgment, is totally fine. I know that it's not personal, or at least I hope that it's not. But we tend to take things personally. So it can hurt to see numbers that we don't want to see, and then to see the other numbers not be where we want them to be. So I don't know what the threshold is, but I feel like in the beginning, and as you're working on growing, at least for me, it's better not to really look at the numbers or to glance at them once in a while with a little bit of a pumping up beforehand and a little affirmation and talking to tell myself that I will not take any of the numbers personally, because you need to keep going. You can't let little things like that stop you from moving ahead. You can't let one negative comment stop you from moving ahead, especially if you know in your heart and in your soul that this is your path, whatever it is that you want to do. You've got to find that balance between taking constructive feedback and putting blinders on. And that can take practice, so don't beat yourself up in the beginning. And this can be a great exercise in just building confidence in general, is learning not to take all of these things personally. And that can be very hard when you are an introvert, when your personality type, I'm literally split down the middle, half and half. One half popular sanguine, which is very extroverted and outgoing. And the other half is perfect melancholy, which is the introvert who overthinks and is a perfectionist and takes everything personally. So I kind of see how that exists in me. I don't know why it exists in me like that, but I know that that's what I am. So that's why I can do things like a podcast, do live videos. I love getting up on stage, but I also have no problem being alone. I like to retreat by myself, literally be in my own little corner, and I am content. So while I did just launch into some tips for you on how to find that clarity and get started on what you want your goals to be, I also want you to not put pressure on yourself. So I have seen so many conflicting messages out there of people encouraging you to move outside of your comfort zone, and others who are like, this is the time to be a couch and just sink into the couch, be one with the couch. That was more the time period, I think, between Christmas and New Year's. But still, there's also the anti-resolution movement of, I am not setting any resolutions. I'm going to be the same bad bitch I was last year. And that's fine. So whatever side of it resonates with you this year, right now, is right. So don't worry about whatever anybody else is trying to push or tell you to do or not to do. What do you want? What do you want? It's not that simple. You have to declare it. If you want to be a couch right now, then be a couch. But if you want to really change your life and get after the goals that you want, you do need to start moving out of your comfort zone. So all I'm saying is that you get to make that choice of which one do you want. And if you really want the second one, then you've got to come along with me on this and at least put a toe outside your comfort zone and then keep moving further and further out. It takes not just believing you can do it, but embodying the type of person who can do it. And I've said this before, I know that I need to step more into that myself and embody the person who is the expert at, not the expert, I don't mean it that way, but who is an expert at what I do and what I offer and how I can help people. I still feel or sense in myself, I don't know if you pick up on this at all, maybe you do. I feel a little bit of timidity because there's still a bit of shock, I think, deep down, maybe not outwardly, but deep down, that any of this is actually working. For example, there's people in my 30-day chakra challenge, and it's the first paid challenge I've ever done. And we have so many amazing women signed up. We met on Zoom for the first night, and so far, as I'm recording this, we've only been on day 2. And we're committed, and we're excited, and it's happening. And this is only affirmation for me that I need to continue moving forward. I can't just let it end at this and be like, okay, I did a thing. No, what else can grow out of this? What else can I create? What else can I offer that's going to expand upon this and keep getting bigger and keep bringing about bigger and better transformations for people? And here's the other thing. Everything that I have done, everything that I have offered, feedback that I've gotten, questions that I get, all help me to know what I might have missed or what I didn't make clear enough or what just could make things better and more clear and more accessible and more helpful. And then things can morph from there. You can make them better. But you can't make it better until you start with what you have. And just be okay with that. Be confident with that. Give your best, knowing that that's all you can do. Come into it from a place of love and service and know that it's all going to work out. And one day, I'm sure I'll reach a point where I have 100 people in a challenge. Maybe I'll reach a point where I get 1,000 people in a challenge. That would be awesome. But I also have to trust that as much as I want that right now, that maybe God knows I'm not quite ready for that yet. That I might be a little overwhelmed, a little stressed out. So I show up where I am with the best that I have and give the best that I can give and trust that if I do that, things will only continue to grow. Now, there are different things that you can do to go in and really help you zone in and focus in on what your goals should be, what your focus should be. And I don't think any of them are right or wrong, or that one's better than the other. Some years, certain things resonate with me better than others. So, for example, I'm still using the push journals. I am still technically an affiliate for them, but I don't, no pun intended, push them. But you'll always find the link in the show notes if you happen to be interested. The link is also in my Instagram bio. I don't always use the journals as prescribed. Sometimes it just turns into a notebook, which I hear they actually have blank notebooks now, which is pretty cool. And I think that they've also added extra blank pages to the regular journals, which is really cool because that's kind of why mine, I think, ends up turning into a notebook, is because I need more note-taking space inside the planner. So maybe when I reach the point where I run out of the ones I already have and I buy the updated ones, then I'll be using it simultaneously as a planner and a notebook. But I'm about to reach the end of one that I started using as a notebook. And in that one, I did a different exercise for not necessarily setting goals just yet. I'm not all the way through everything. But Logan, I'm going to say her last name wrong, Orihuela, I think is the right way to say it, I think. I'll tag her. I've mentioned her before, and one day I will get her on the podcast. We keep having to reschedule our interview, which is totally okay. But I was following along with some prompts that she gave for journaling on how the last year went and what you want the upcoming year to look like. And what was really helpful for me were just the simple questions of what were the biggest lessons and takeaways from 2021? What could you have done more of in 2021? And what could you have done less of? And then moving on to this year, what do you want to feel by the end of the year? What action do you need to take to be able to feel that? And basically, what do you need to embody? Who do you need to be able to feel that? And then that's the action you start taking, and that's who you become right now. Not later, not next month, not after you try it out for 30 days. You start now. You start owning who you are, not even who you want to be. Take who you want to be and flip it now. Now it's who you are. And that is how you show up. And not in a fake it till you make it sense. I hate that phrase. I did a whole short series of podcasts about that a while back. I do kind of like the phrase face it till you make it, but it's more stepping into the essence and the being that you want to be. You want to be a six-figure earner. It's not about acting like it in the sense that you're necessarily going to dress that way or start buying expensive things just because. It's an attitude. And again, not a fake attitude, not an attitude in a mean sense, but I think it comes down to an ownership of who you are and not being afraid to show up that way. Speak up. Add confidence into your voice. Add confidence into your body language. And baby steps. You can start by working on maybe lowering the pitch of your voice a little bit. Speaking from your diaphragm instead of from your throat. Sitting up taller. Walking with your head up. Little tiny things like that make a big difference in how you feel about yourself and how others perceive you, which will loop back to how you feel about yourself. Because you'll most likely be getting positive feedback one way or another in response to showing up that way. If you need to give yourself a little pep talk, say some affirmations, remind yourself of what you're going to do as soon as you open that door when you walk into work. or walk into your house. It doesn't mean faking it, because faking it is stressful. It's almost more like a letting go. Letting go of who you think you have to be, how you think you have to show up, what you think others expect you to be like, to sound like, to look like, to act like. To take a moment to reconnect with yourself, figure out what you want your life to look like, and not worrying about the rest. Starting to take the steps necessary to make all of that happen. So I hope I didn't talk too much in a circle today. I hope that made sense. I would like you to know that even though we did already start this past Sunday with the 30-day chakra challenge, if you were thinking about joining, it's still open. I will still welcome you in. I would love to have you. We would love to have you. We meet once a week on Zoom. We do that day's session on Zoom and some card pulls. And then the rest of the time is all on Facebook. And you don't have to be there live for any of it. You can do all of the replays every day. I do each daily session, which is only about 5 minutes, very early in the morning. So if you can be there live, if you want to, you're more than welcome. But there's 2 reasons that I do it that early. 1, my kids are still asleep. Knock on wood. So far, so good. And number 2, it's accountability for me to make sure that it gets done in a timely manner so that if you do have to do the replay, you have it almost immediately. So don't stress about needing to be there live at all. You get a journal that I created to go with it to help remind you what each chakra relates to. I also added in, there's a list of ways that an imbalance would show up, how to know if it is balanced, and then a list of different essential oils and crystals that you could use if you want to bring in for yourself to the sessions to help amplify the energy for those days. And there are prizes. So there's going to be a first, second, and third place, and it all ties into how willing you are to being accountable on social media. So the women in this challenge have been sharing their accountability so far, and it's so fun. And I just can't wait to see what 30 straight days of Reiki is going to bring. So the link for that is in the show notes. So if you would like to join, please do. If you have any questions or perhaps any issues receiving the emails, please let me know. I would love, like I said, to have you join us. If that's not your bag, if you're like, I don't know if I can commit to 30 days of anything or 30 more days of anything outside of what I already have planned to do for my New Year's resolutions, if you need some help energetically, we can meet just one-on-one for a Reiki session, or you can do a card pull via email. All of those links are in the show notes. Let's start off 2022 by getting rid of any attachments, anything that's hanging on that we need to release, get rid of, and help balance everything and set you on the right path for success for the rest of this year. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it. Go ahead and take a screenshot, do a screen flow, post it to your social media, tag me, and let me know what stuck out to you. Also, if you feel so inclined, I haven't asked for a review in a while, and reviews really help boost the podcast, particularly an Apple Podcast, if that's where you're listening. So if you feel so inclined to at least leave a star rating or a written review, I would appreciate that so much, especially if it's a 5-star. So if you're at all inclined, please do that. Also, I learned, or basically confirmed, that if you don't actually download the episode, that it doesn't count in the stats that I would look at to see how many people have listened. So while the numbers don't matter, I would like to encourage you to hit the download button. And I believe as long as you don't specifically save it, I think it does delete after a certain number of days. But if not, you can always go back in and delete it. But to actually hit that download button so that it gets counted. I'm very curious. There's no way for me to find out, but I would be really curious to know what my actual numbers could be if there is anybody listening who doesn't download the episodes. So, no pressure. It's not a requirement. But if you think of it, hit that download button. I would appreciate it. Let's set the intention that this is going to be an amazing year, and let's take the action to actually make it happen. Thank you so much, as always, for being here. I'll see you next time.